So let us begin today's practice of moving from inner critic to the inner coach meditation. So let us look at this from a human standpoint. We have many systems which operate within us. There is the threat defense system, there's the attachment affiliation system, and this threat defense system, also known as, which you probably know, fight, flight, freeze, and some people say fawn as well, response is triggered quickly when our brains or minds detect danger. We all know this, leading us to either turn towards the threat to face it and hope that the threat will be alleviated, and show our beliefs and hope that we can handle it. That is one way. Such responses to dangers are very helpful in the wild, or when we used to be living in the forests and when we were growing up in our evolutionary chain. For humans in the modern day world, though, these responses often make things worse. This is because the threats we face are not physical but psychological. So the threats to our self-concept is what is being challenged, and this is same as somebody trying to attack us. And the essence of it, something, or not somebody, something trying to attack us. So our minds get confused between our thoughts and representations of ourselves and our actual selves. So leading us to react as if this is an existential crisis, even when there is something which is not. So consider this example. So let us look at receiving some negative feedback, or some people call this constructive criticism, and they are not shy of telling you how they feel about you whenever given the opportunity. Let's park that topic for a different time. But if you get some negative feedback, immediately your threat system, the threat defense system, starts to respond with either fighting, or in this instance we start to defend. We start to say why that negative feedback is not particularly right for us, and we start to engage our language to cut ourselves down. We start to become anxious, and we start to maybe run away from that feedback. So we don't want to hear this. We just want to carry on with our lives, trying to escape from your inner pain by numbing yourself with different coping mechanisms. Or we freeze, get stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and rumination, and even the feedback can just play in your mind over and over again, and over time you start to believe it to be true, even though it is just a feedback, even though it has the same effect as someone telling you a story about themselves. So this is not the actual truth. It is just a negative feedback which gets stuck in our minds over and over again, and we end up suffering. So these responses to the threat to our self-concept are a double whammy, because they criticize us and become both the attacker and the attacked, which only reinforces that negative effect. But we talked about a lot of fight, freeze, flight responses. And often what goes missing is the other response, the attachment affiliation. I call it the AA system, and not to be confused with the other AA, but this is attachment and affiliation, also known as caregiver system. We don't talk about this enough. When we discuss fight, flight, freeze, we often talk about how we can cope with those things, but there is another system which is inherent in our nature. It's the innate capacity to be soothed by warmth and affection. And this actually deactivates the threat defense system and instead cultivates a sense of calm. Now, this warmth and affection can come from one's caregiver or oneself itself. And we have ways in which we can train ourselves to be able to do that. So this is what we are going to talk about today, is about how do we change that inner voice into our inner coach. So because of this system, it is all about being gentle, kind, and understanding, and accepting oneself, understanding there is potential for learning and growth, and that we are all part of the common existence right here, right now. And there are different aspects of responding to ourselves with criticism. There is the defense threat system, as we mentioned, versus kindness and support system. The caregiving system gives rise to the release of certain neurochemicals. We have previously heard of oxytocin, which strongly increases the feelings of trust, calm, safety, generosity, and connectedness. It facilitates the ability to feel warmth and compassion for ourselves. So this threat defense system, on the other hand, gives rise to the release of fight, flight, freeze hormones and chemicals like cortisol and adrenaline, which actually is required in your body to take action, but it provides a lot of stress within the body, and constant exposure to this means you will be chronically stressed. So in this tool, in this discussion, I aim to give way in which we can change the narrative we say about ourselves with the threat defense to the caregiving system. And we call this the inner voice or inner critic to the inner coach or the inner mentor. And learn that they can let go of their habitual defense response and instead tap into their unique inner coach and respond to themselves with support and encouragement. So that is what I propose in this exercise, in this discussion today. So the goal is simple, is to become aware of and be familiar with your inner critic. And sometimes it may be challenging because the critic is very strong. And two, the experience the difference between the voices of the inner critic and the inner coach, speaking to them in the context of challenging life experience. So we look at certain experience and we change the way we approach. And you may find it difficult to buy into your inner coach during this meditation, perhaps because this part of you has been dormant for a long time, and saying the words of encouragement and support to yourself may be a foreign experience, and this is okay. First time, it is okay to experience that. Check in on the extent to which you believe in your inner coach. So asking yourself that question, how much do I believe my inner critic versus how much do I believe in my inner coach? And why would you believe your critic? And is that normal? So let us begin. So we all have this inner critic. It is that voice inside our head that berates us, beats us down when we make a mistake or fail in some way, Examples can be you're a failure, you can't do anything right, you're a loser. And this inner critic is thought to be there to help us. Though more often than not, these words do harm us, leads us to self-doubt, in some cases self-hatred. But thankfully, we have our inner coach with us. This is the voice inside our head that encourages us and offers us words of support when things go wrong. Examples of this you may have heard before. You've got this. You can handle this. You are much capable and more confident than you think. It may sound something like a friend talking to you, but that is from you as well. The only issue is that our inner coaches are far less vocal than our inner critics. So some of us may have even lost touch with our inner coach altogether. So in this meditation, we will tap into this inner coach to become more familiar with it yourself and to learn to how to listen to your inner critic in times of need. So from inner critic to inner coach meditation. So let us begin this meditation. Find a comfortable posture, either sitting in a chair or a cushion on the floor, or maybe lying down, walking, however you feel comfortable, relaxed, and alert. Bring your attention to the breath. Notice your breath flowing in and out of your body. Feel the rise and fall of your chest and belly as you breathe. No need to change your breath in any way. Observe it as it is at this moment. And now from this place of stillness, I'd like to invite you to bring to mind a recent time where you were critical or judgmental of yourself. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you said something you should not have to someone, or messed up in some other way, some other unique way. Now bring this situation to mind and recall this moment as vividly as you can. Remembering where you were, who you were with, if anyone, what you were doing. And see if you can put yourself back into this very moment as you could travel back in time. From here, I'd like you to notice what your mind says to you about you in this situation. What does your mind say? The words that you may be hearing are critical or judgmental. Then your inner critic is here. And what is it saying exactly? How is it speaking to you? What is its tone of voice? Allow your inner critic to talk to you about how it typically would. And this may be counterintuitive. Why would we want to do this? But just trusting in the process. Notice how you are feeling right now. Notice what you want to do in response to the situation. Maybe you want to leave that situation. Maybe you want to run and hide. Maybe you feel like defending your point of view. Maybe you feel like just giving up. Just feel it within you. Now that you are familiar with your inner critic, now take a deep breath. Now I'd like to imagine a scenario, a different scenario. Imagine that I have given you a magic wand. You can use a pen, you can use your phone. And with this one magic wand and with a swoop, I can replace your inner critic with an inner coach. Now this inner coach speaks only words of encouragement and support. It says things like, it's okay, I've got this. Mistakes happen, they're part of life. I can handle setback and move on. It starts to speak to you differently. Imagine this now. And this inner coach is there in that same difficult situation you just thought about 2 minutes ago. But it is your inner coach now speaking to you and is shown up, fully formed, ready to be with you. So what could your inner coach say to you right now to encourage and support you? Maybe you are taking a big life change decision. Your inner coach should be supporting you in that decision and pointing out all the ways in which you have been useful, wonderful, valuable to yourself, others, and even the wide society. And if you have trouble coming up with something here, you might like to think of what you would say to your loved one, even to your pet, for example, in a distressful situation, in a difficult situation. And notice how you are feeling right now about it. Notice what you want to do in response to this situation. Let your inner coach be there, just like a good friend of yours. Maybe he or she is visiting you for the first time. Welcome it. And maybe the inner critic is asking it to leave because inner critic feels like they have been ignored or they have been overruled. That's okay. In this situation, in that difficult situation, your inner coach says things like, you are capable, you are beautiful, you are wonderful. You are going to make things happen. You are going to change things. You are going to learn and grow. You are going to make progress. Just keep at it. Do not give up now. You have come so far. And you start to notice the inner critic challenging these words. And that's okay. You can bring the challenges. And each time there is a challenge, you respond, you are okay. You are loved. You are kind. You are beautiful. You are compassionate. You are grateful. You are enough. And each time you notice the inner critic, and this is important, it is when you notice you can change things. So when you don't notice your inner critic, that's okay. But when you notice your inner critic, just bring your magic wand and swiftly change and bring your inner coach to mind. And anytime you start to notice this happen, you can simply invite your inner coach and just be with your inner coach. Get familiar with the tone of voice. Notice the intonations of your inner coach. Notice the features of your inner coach. Maybe they have a certain voice. Maybe they have a certain unique way of speaking. Maybe they are speaking like movie figures. Maybe they are speaking like great personalities out there. Maybe they could be just your own voice. Or maybe it is somebody who you admire, whoever that is. Get familiar with your inner coach. Get so familiar that you start to build relationship with your inner coach. You are starting to engage with your inner coach. You are starting to know more about yourself through your inner coach. And we cannot change what your inner critic will say. It will still be there. It will be another cog in your machine, so to speak. But get familiar with your inner coach. They are here to guide you. You do not need anything else. Just that voice to guide you. And this is what you have been seeking. And it's always within you. Now, let's leave this visualization. You can let go of your inner coach if you feel like it, or you can keep engaging your inner coach. And just return to your breath. Become aware again of your breath flowing in and out of your body. Become aware of your body sitting in this room. Become aware of my voice and any other sounds around you. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and simply come back to this moment and ask yourself these questions. And you can reflect it through journaling practices or just with your mind. What impact did your inner critic have on you? And how did you feel? And what behavior at the time was challenging the situation? Maybe asking, did anything change when you brought along your inner coach? May or may not have happened, but if so, what has changed? Was there a lot of resistance or difficulty in letting go from your inner critic? Because we believe it. We are so conditioned to believe it. It is so difficult for us to not believe it because what is familiar feels true. And could you now start to indulge your inner coach? Or does it still feel foreign to you? And these are just reflective questions. There is no right, wrong answer. It is just what it is right now. And with practice, you can completely transform the way you talk to yourself, which then transforms your life. So, thank you for taking part in this practice today. Appreciate it.